Pakistan witnessed the floods of the century, causing devastation across the country, affecting over 20 million people. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, 12 districts were declared as worst affected by the floods. There were widespread damages to the livelihoods, assets, infrastructure, environment, communication and basic facilities. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa faced multifold losses to the economy and society because of being at the front line in war against terrorism. The protected crisis in federally administered tribal area, FATA, military operation in Sawat and Malakand, had negative impact on the socio-economic condition of the people. The floods of 2010 had added more miseries and turned into a huge challenge for the people of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, government and humanitarian organizations. TROCAIRE, an Irish humanitarian organization, is operating in Pakistan since 1973 through the network of its partners. Rural Development Project (RDP) is a Pakistani national NGO working since 1992. RDP is a partner of TROCAIRE in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and responded to the earthquake in 2005 and IDP's crisis in 2009. In the wake of floods in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, RDP immediately mobilized its resources and conducted a rapid needs assessment and developed a 4-month emergency response project in partnership with TROCAIRE.
So as the country director here, I went to Nowshera immediately after the floods, the massive floods of 2010, and saw the devastation that was inflicted on communities there. So our greatest concern as TROCAIRE was to immediately save lives and alleviate suffering, and then consequently to reduce vulnerability after that.
Later, in April 2011, RDP, in partnership with TROCAIRE, developed the multi-sectoral recovery and rehabilitation response in District Nowshera. This response was informed by a detailed needs assessment. Under this response, food security and sustainable livelihoods rehabilitation project was initiated in 2 worst affected union councils of Nowshera district, namely Dagai and Kurvi. The overall purpose of the project was to restore the food security and livelihoods means of flood-affected communities.
From that relief stage, then we moved into a recovery phase where we would target the most marginalized and ensure that they were being particularly helped at this time. The other thing, of course, was linking relief, recovery and development. And we have tried to do that, targeting the same communities, making sure that from this relief that we build back better, as it were, so that communities are restored to what their condition was, at least as good before the floods.
The overall purpose of this project was to revive and restore the livelihood systems, income and employment opportunities and infrastructure kind of things. The key focus remained on the restoration of agriculture, livestock, practices of the people, rehabilitation of physical infrastructure, provision of water, sanitation and hygiene services to the people, as well as social organization and capacity development of affected communities to prepare them for disaster risk reduction and management.
The key focus of the project remained on the restoration and rehabilitation of various social, economic, physical and financial assets. The project provided inputs and services to the most affected and vulnerable households through a community-based approach of social organizations, inputs distribution, capacity building, and developing community linkages with service providers. The project was designed using the results-based management approach, RBM. Project implementation was informed by the social mobilization strategy of RDP. The affected communities were encouraged to play the lead role and partner with RDP in the recovery of their livelihoods in a transparent and accountable manner. At the first step, area selection was made in consultation with the local communities and district administration. The worst affected area with more vulnerability was targeted. The project covered 80% of the affected areas in both union councils. Broad-based community consultation was carried out and village-level social organizations named village committees were formed. Total 40 village committees, 20 for men and 20 for women were formed.
The project employed a community-based approach wherein the people were organized in the form of male and female social organization structures. RDP during the implementation of project facilitated and capacitated these village organizations and transformed them into independent platforms that were later on given the responsibility of planning, management and implementation of all the project activities.
In order to improve the planning, implementation and management skills of the members of VCs, RDP conducted 40 field-based sessions on record keeping and basic social organization. Executive body members of these VCs were trained through a field-based training events organized by RDP. Under the umbrella of these village committees, the sub-committees for disaster preparedness, human rights, and protection were formed with defined role and responsibilities. Beneficiary-based selection for all the activities was informed by a thorough participatory process. The selection criterion was developed and followed to target the most vulnerable among the affected population. In order to ensure equitable distribution of project benefits, all the stakeholders, particularly the women, were given the lead role in the implementation of the project activities. Beneficiary baseline was established to record the existing situation in the area and the impact of the floods on the lives and livelihoods of the people. During the project period, 2,000 selected small farmers received 16 kg maize seed, 50 kg DAP, and 50 kg urea, each to plant 1 acre piece of land. Awesome variety of maize seed was provided, which was recommended by Department of Agriculture Extension. 1,000 selected small farmers received 4 kg seed of sorghum and 50 kg DAP. 1,000 women received the toolkits and seeds to practice kitchen gardening at household level. 300 extremely vulnerable individuals, including 100 women, received a livelihoods cash grant of rupees 4,800 for the period of 3 months. 180 men and 60 women were employed for a period of 4 months, earning 5,600 rupees a month through cash for work.
د RDP نوخار طرف نه د کیش فار ورک یو پروګرام روان دی چې په هغې کې مونږ په دې کلي کې کوم ځای کې انفراسټرکچر خراب شو سیلاب سره لارې جوړول دي ویڼۍ جوړول دي او خاص طور باندې واټر چینلز چې خراب شوي دي نو د هغې مرمت او د هغې نه خټه ویستل او واښه کټکول چې پټو ته او ځمکو ته فصل لپاره اوبه په وخت ورسي او صحیح سلامت ورسي چې اوبه ضایع نه شي.
زمونږ کمیټي روشنی ویلفیر ارګنایزیشن او امن ویلفیر ارګنایزیشن شهید آباد ویلفیر ارګنایزیشن دا درې واړه تنظیمونه را یوځای شو او دا د دې نکاسي آب او د دې ډرین باره کې چې دا کوم لوی پراجیکټ دی دې کې به مونږ دا سیګمنټ لګو او دغه د صفایاني د نالو نو دا مونږ درې تنظیمونه را یوځای شو او دې دپاره مونږ له دی 10,22,000 چې دغه منظور کو پیسې مونږ له منظورې کې او دغه سره مونږ سره مزدوران کار کوي.
3,500 روپۍ دیاړي ورکوي یو لیبر ته او لیبر چې دي د ټولو کمیټو نه 30 کسان اخیستې شوي دي 4 میاشتې به مسلسل تر دسمبره پورې به دا کار کیږي او 3,500 روپۍ او د ورځې دیاړي ده پیمنټ به دوی ته د چک په ترو باندې کیږي د 100 دین کار چې وشي هغه پیمنټ به کیږي.
6 cash for work projects were implemented through men and 2 projects through women VCs. In 6 cash for work projects, 80 small village level infrastructure scheme were restored. 500 women received poultry unit of 10 birds and a bag of poultry feed. $1,000 households received compound feed, minerals and dewormer pack during the winter season for livestock. To restore wash facilities, 100 women received the inputs for construction of latrines, whereas 10 communal hand pumps were also installed in selected villages. 40 community-based disaster risk reduction sessions were held, in which 3,354 men, 405 women participated, totaling to 1,484 individuals. 40 community-based protection sessions were held, in which 434 men and 546 women participated, totaling to 980 individuals. Information, education and communication material was developed and shared with 5,500 individuals. The IEC material included the key messages on DRR, health, hygiene accountability, and HIV and AIDS. 100,000 saplings were planted on degraded lands identified in consultation with the local communities. The inputs provision process was informed by the standard operating procedure of RDP. The dignity, safety, and security of the beneficiaries were given importance while providing them with the inputs. Complaints and response mechanism was established at community level to ensure transparency and accountability to the affected communities. The post-distribution studies have revealed a significant increase in agriculture production. The local economic system had significant positive effects because of the project. The partner communities expressed satisfaction over the implementation methodology, quality of provided inputs, and measures taken to ensure transparency and accountability.
Zahurul Haq, 54, is the resident of Pashtun Gadi village of the Gay Union Council. He is living with disability and has the family of 10, including 8 children. His only source of income is a small tuck shop in the village. The flood washed away his house, so as the shop and small assets that he had.
The سیلاب نه وړاندې چې کوم دی زما ټول روزګار او سیلاب چې راغی نو بیا سیلاب سره مونږ ټول متاثره شو. سیلاب کورم ګډوډ کو ټول روان ویجاړې کو دکان هم زما یوړو او زه په دې خپو باندې معذور یم او بچی زما دی واړه نو دا هغې په وجه باندې چې کوم دی نو لږ یو پوټې ګرانه شوې ده. دې کې د سیلاب نه بعد چې کوم دی نو زمونږ RDP والا رالل او هغه دلته کې دغه جوړه کا کمیټي جوړه کا. په هغه کمیټۍ کې چې کوم دی نو زه هم ورسره شامل شوم. په هغې کې زما نوم راغو. په هغه نوم کې چې کوم دی نو دلته RDP والا د یو 3 میاشتو مونږ سره دغه وچلولو نو په هغې کې به هغوی ماله 200 کم 15,000 روپۍ راکولي. هغه 200 کم 15,000 روپۍ به ما د نوخار بینک نه راوړلې او هغه ما دلته په دې دوکان کې اچولې. نن سبا زما سیل چې کوم دی نو 1000 ته رسېدلی دی. زه د RDP ډېر مشکور یم او زما د هغوی نه دا تمه او توقع داسې نه وه خو چونکې پیدا داسې شوه چې دوی ما له رالل او دوی ما سره کېناستل او زه دوی سره ممبرشپ کې ملګری شوم نو زما دوی نه لکه ډېر لوی دغه پیدا شو چې تاسو د غریبو خلکو دپاره دومره یعنې دغه شروع کړی دی.
Women were encouraged to participate in the decision-making process at the local level and have access to cash. The inclusion of women in the rehabilitation process was ensured through a dignified and culturally accepted manner. The project teams at RDP and TROCAIRE level made a really good collaboration and exhibited their expertise.
I would like to thank the project team that has played the very important role in implementing the project in hard and tough conditions. They were able to develop really good relationships with the partner communities and the government line agencies. Those have been extending their supports, the provincial disaster management authorities, and the most important is the role of the partner communities who have been really cooperative with the RDP, and they have actually done what we anticipated and they have exceeded our anticipation in some cases. And I would like to thank TROCAIRE as well for their support. Now the project, after completing its project time period, it has paved a very good path where we can launch the development and the long-term social and economic change interventions, and we can bring about or we can trigger the sustainable social and economic change.
The partnership approach that we have adopted with RDP has enabled us to listen very carefully to the community's voice and to be able to journey with them through that trying period in their lives. And I think that partnership approach with RDP has been very successful.
I think that the project successfully completed its tenure together with completing all of its qualitative and quantitative targets. And I also think that the project has contributed a lot in the restoration of livelihood and food security systems of the affected communities. The project has completed its project period, and now we are in the planning phase to interlink the project learning to the long-term 3 years program that is for the development of livelihood system of the same affected communities.
The project has paved a good way to get into the long-term engagement with the affected communities, focusing on the livelihoods development, human and institutional building, disaster risk reduction, social protection, and climate change. RDP in partnership with TROCAIRE, stands tall to its commitment for a just, peaceful, and prosperous society.